King Charles is making a historic address to Canadians. Charles, who is King of Canada and head of state, made the speech from the throne as he attended the state opening of Parliament in Ottawa on May 27. It marked the second day of a whirlwind visit to the Canadian capital, lasting less than 24 hours, alongside Queen Camilla, and served as the centerpiece of Charles' first trip to Canada since becoming sovereign in September 2022. The royal couple was transported to the Senate in the grandest of royal ways, in a landau carriage escorted by a troupe from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police musical ride in their bright red tunics. They arrived to a royal salute and a 100-person guard of honor. Inside, King Charles, who is still undergoing weekly cancer treatments, made his speech. Speaking in both English and French, King Charles gave his speech, carefully navigating the sensitivities of the UK's relationship with its other key North American ally, the United States. It all comes in the wake of Canadian Prime Minister Carney's recent election victory, which was widely seen as a rejection of President Donald Trump's agenda, particularly his push for higher tariffs and his controversial remarks suggesting Canada could become the 51st state. The king said during the speech, as the anthem reminds us, "The true North is indeed strong and free." King Charles addressed how Prime Minister Carney and President Trump have begun defining a new economic and security relationship between Canada and the U.S., rooted in mutual respect and founded on common interests, to deliver transformational benefits for both sovereign nations. In parallel, the government is working to strengthen its relationships with reliable trading partners and allies around the world, recognizing that Canada has what the world needs and the values the world respects. Canada is ready to build a coalition of like-minded countries that share its values, that believe in international cooperation and the free and open exchange of goods, services, and ideas, he continued. In this new, fast-evolving world, Canada is ready to lead. The Governor-General of Canada usually gives the speech from the throne on the monarch's behalf and sets out the government's agenda, and the speech has only been made by the sovereign once before, by Charles' late mother, Queen Elizabeth, who did so in October 1957. When my dear late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, opened a new Canadian Parliament in 1957, the Second World War remained a fresh, painful memory. The Cold War was intensifying. Freedom and democracy were under threat. Canada was emerging as a growing economic power and a force for peace in the world. In the decades since, history has been punctuated by epoch-making events. The Vietnam War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the start of the War on Terror. He continued that now, Canada's relationships with partners are also changing. We must be clear-eyed. The world is a more dangerous and uncertain place than at any point since the Second World War. Fundamental change is always unsettling. Yet this moment is also an incredible opportunity. An opportunity for renewal, an opportunity to think big and to act bigger, an opportunity for Canada to embark on the largest transformation of its economy since the Second World War. A confident Canada, which has welcomed new Canadians, including from some of the most tragic global conflict zones, can seize this opportunity by recognizing that all Canadians can give themselves far more than any foreign power on any continent can ever take away. And that by staying true to Canadian values, Canada can build new alliances and a new economy that serves all Canadians. Carney asked King Charles to give the speech this year. In doing so, the king is drawing on his extensive diplomatic experience gleaned from more than 5 decades of frontline public service. He must reflect the policies and priorities of the Prime Minister, demonstrating his solidarity with the government and the people of the nation he serves as head of state. The speech was pitch perfect. Royal historian Dr. Ed Owens, author of After Elizabeth, Can the Monarchy Save Itself? Tells people. What he doesn't want to do is jeopardize the future state visit to the United Kingdom by President Donald Trump. What was most remarkable about it was that it tackled the Canada-US relationship head-on, Owen continues. It talked directly about the relationship between the two countries, the importance of that relationship evolving along the lines of mutual respect and the importance of economic and defense cooperation. There were a couple of very direct call-outs along lines that would resonate with the Trump White House, particularly around the movement of fentanyl across the border, he says. The Canadians are going to be investing heavily in policing that border. And secondly, the Canadian government's investment in defense. He trod a careful line about what could and couldn't be said. It set an important marker for restating Canada's sovereignty and independence. The fact that the king was there in person was in itself a symbolic reassertion of Canadian sovereignty, as that's what the Crown represents within Canadian politics, Owens says. It was a speech that emphasized the importance of unifying Canada. One of the things that Charles has done since becoming king is talk about the importance of recognizing the history of Canadian people and reconciliation, Owens continues. That has been one of the defining themes of Charles's reign in the immediate year before he became king and has seen it in the other Commonwealth realms. He has been much more candid in talking about past injustices and acknowledging them so that people can come together in the present and in order to unify them. He was doing what the King of Canada should do, acting as a symbolic focal point for unity, he says. After the parliamentary ceremony, Charles and Camilla were expected to be taken to the National War Memorial, where they paid their respects and laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. It was the last formal event of the less than 24-hour visit. Shortly after arriving in the country on May 26, King Charles and Queen Camilla were given a clue as to how many Canadians viewed their appearance and support amid such pressure from their neighbor to the south. The royal couple were greeted by well-wishers in Lansdowne Park in Ottawa who called out, "Welcome home," to the man who was on his 20th official visit to the country and were thanked by others for coming. They then enjoyed a community event, at which they met Canadians representing organizations from across the country. They were thanked for coming by loyal Canadians, clearly proud of their head of state. The King then held an audience with Governor-General Mary Simon before meeting with Carney. It was also a landmark day for Queen Camilla, as she was sworn in as a member of the Canadian Privy Council. The couple also planted a commemorative tree at Rideau Hall, the official residence of the Governor-General, near the sugar maple they planted there in 2017, and their day ended with a reception honoring Canada's 10 provincial lieutenant governors and 3 territorial commissioners. As King Charles touched down on the same continent where his estranged son Prince Harry lives, the prince had quietly traveled to Shanghai, China, for a surprise appearance at a global travel and tourism conference. The Duke of Sussex, 40, lives in Montecito, California, with his wife, Meghan Markle, and their 2 children, Prince Archie, 6, and Princess Lilibet, 3. Earlier this month, Harry spoke with BBC News just hours after losing a legal challenge over his downgraded UK security, which was reduced after he stepped back as a working royal in 2020. I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore, the Duke of Sussex said then.